Yo, what's good, boys? We are back at it again with another MLB The Show 25 tier list for you guys, and today we are updating our pitchers tier list. So, July is over. We are into August, so I'm going to rank all of the cards here for you guys, kind of let you know how these cards will perform for you. Now, it is worth mentioning that I'm doing most of this with All-Star and Hall of Fame in mind, because that's where most of the player base is. But if a card's really going legend, I will go out of my way to mention that for you guys. So if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, all that helps out the channel a good amount. And let's get into it. So we're going to start with our relievers. Timestamps will be down below if you just want to hop straight into starters. But we're going to start with relievers. Danny, A tier, sinker cutter, great. Other pitches, not so much. So that holds him back. Devin, another A tier guy. I go back and forth on him. He has like one awful start for me. And then, for some reason put him back in the bullpen because I just can't find pitchers I like more than him. And he's like shut down for next 3 starts. So kind of like his Yankees career, kind of like his entire career. He's hot or cold, and there's really no in between. But he is still A tier. I think he thrives mostly on like Hall of Fame, where you're allowed to throw the screwball more because it's just harder to time up. So I think that's more so where you want to be with him. Bummer, B tier. I think he's all right. He's by no means my choice lefty at this point. You'd have to really have a lot of value on like the slurve, sweeper, whichever of those two he throws, which I don't. So I think he's just a worse like sinker cutter lefty. I think there's just other options I would prefer more. Class A, C tier. I think he's trash. Unless you're on Legend or you're playing somebody who's on 80-inch TV that can't hit outlier, I think he is not particularly great. Robert Nin. I love Rob Nin. I've loved him for years. I think he's one of the most underrated relievers in the game every year. I think more people are kind of hip to him now. What made him unique was his bullet slider. He was like one of the only pitchers in the game that threw like 92-mile-an-hour sliders. There was even that Mark McGuire that was made after him last year. That was incredible just because of how hard he threw his slider. There's other guys that throw hard sliders now, but he's still one of them, and he's still pretty good. Keeping that in mind. So, Joe Nathan, B tier. He's fine, inoffensive. I always think he's also like a really underrated reliever, but he just doesn't do anything awesome. And he's probably overpriced. He might be one of the final BR cards we ever get. If it keeps trending in that direction, because now we only get chase back cards, and who knows what they'll even do with the mode next year. So that's an interesting factoid, and might be a reason we remember Joe Nathan for years. Jason Adam, C tier. Card that looks awesome on paper. He's just not good in practice. Like the per 9s really stick out with him. He's just super readable. He's just not that hard to hit. Miller. If it was up to me, I'd probably put him B tier. I think community consensus, he's probably A, because for some people, they love this card. Me personally, I have yet to have him brought in against me and not put up a run that inning. I've hit multiple walk-offs on him. I don't find him hard to hit, so I never pitch him because I don't see it with him, but for some reason, everybody else does. So I'll give him A tier for that reason. Camillo, C tier. Same as Emmanuel Class A, you kind of need to be on Legend to get the most out of them. And outlier cutter just isn't that crazy. Luis Castillo, probably F. I don't know why they won't give him an outlier sinker. He should be with the starters. We'll get back to him. But I don't know why they won't give him an outlier sinker. Like now would be a good time. We're approaching the end game. I think it would be a good time to do that. Chavez, C tier. I think he's trash. Unless you're on Legend. Unless you can tuck his pitch in a corner every time on Legend, that's where he has the most value. I think he's just super BP on lower difficulties. Yeah. Trinan, C tier. Pretty overrated. He kind of needs an outlier sinker and stuff. There's still some stuff you can do with him. Like he's still a sinker cutter pitcher, so how bad can he really be? But he's also really outdated from being from Color Storm. Randy, B tier. I think he's all right. He's all right. He doesn't really stand out on paper, but every time somebody's brought him in against me, I haven't found him especially hard to hit, but I do just notice that he has a weird motion. He throws like faster than what it looks, or Yeah, it doesn't look like the pitch is that fast, but it's just really fast. Like on his sinker, his four seam, everything. So it's just he's a weird one to hit off of, but I haven't found him like hard to hit off of, if that makes sense. Robleski, I think very bottom of A tier is pretty fair for him. The long relief angle just doesn't work with him for whatever reason. Like the stamina's glitched, I guess, or something. I'm not sure, but he's still kind of janky to hit. He's kind of hit or miss. When you bring him in, people are either going to tank him or they're just not going to touch him because of how kind of janky he is. But his pitch mix just kind of gives something to be desired. So I think he's bottom of A. O'Day, I would put B tier now. I think to use him, you need to be on legend and you need to just be meta pitching every single time. Just away sliders to righties, circle changes to everybody else, just shrinking PCIs as much as possible. Is kind of the role for Darren O'Day at this point. Gagne, probably B tier. He's good for some people. I don't think he's super hard to hit. So I think he's just B tier. He's not great. Phillips, C tier. He's like a relief pitcher Maddox kind of. I don't like what he brings. I would just rather go other directions with my bullpen. Loaizaga, I probably put B. Just really dated. I mean, card came out forever ago, so it's not too crazy to say. Still has the outlier sinker. Can be good if you got him like super factored and you're just super comfortable with him. Maybe he's like A tier for you, but I wouldn't call him anything more than that. Sir Anthony, I'll give him B. I don't think he's really hard to hit. I think his delivery is just super readable. I think what saves him is this is his best pitch mix ever. You got a splitter. I think he has a 5-pitch mix. So this is his best mix. He's just not hard to hit, in my opinion. Never really has been. Dibble, probably just bottom of A tier. If you want a guy that you can work that cutter with that outlier fastball, get some rollovers, get some early swings, he is one of your only options to do that. He is probably bad value because like his chaseback and Hank Aaron's for some reason, like they just don't exist anymore. So for that reason, he's kind of overpriced. But he is still one of the only guys you're really throwing that pitch combo with effectively. Hater, C tier. Was I overly harsh on him before? Maybe. He's like relief pitcher Chris Sale. Like you're just kind of beating up on players that have trouble picking up on release. I feel like if you play good players, he's pretty bad. Jojo Romero, I'm putting him top of B tier. I don't see the hype with this card. I think a lot of people just saw JoJo and thought he would be crazy because he's been good in Moonshot in the past, or he's been a good like Silver in BR. But that was like a 5-pitch JoJo with like a cutter, and this one does not have that. Yeah, his control's really good. I just don't know if it's good enough to offset just being kind of a default pitcher with not great per nines. Yeah, I don't really see it with him. I'm going to put him B tier for right now. Bobby Suarez, B tier. Double outlier, should be really good. Doesn't have crazy speed differentials. He's super readable as well. So I feel like he's just a better version of Jason Adam, but he's still not great. Trevor McGill, this one might be controversial. I'm going to give him B tier. It might be like bottom of B tier, but if you like those Craig Kimbrell cards that get outlier knuckle curves, he's kind of like that. I just think he's also janky. Like I've had multiple times where I've been playing the Brewers and like Conquest or something, and they bring him in, and I find him kind of tough to hit. And I thought to myself, if they gave him a better overall card at some point, he'd probably be pretty decent. I think he's all right. I think if your opponent's going to struggle hitting outlier and you know how to kind of tunnel a curveball with a four seam, it's not the best thing in the world. But if you can work that, I think he's got some potential and he'll be all right, but definitely not like a strong relief pitcher. Matt Strahm, still one of my preferred lefties. I don't think he's anything special, but I would run him probably over like an Andrew Miller personally. Eckersley, have never liked him. Like, I'm putting D tier. I think he's legitimately trash. If you are not on Legend and just tucking a slider, he's pretty much just Tyler Rogers, to be honest. If you're not just tucking a slider in a corner every pitch, I feel like he's just not even good. Lee Smith, A tier. Kind of like a Raleigh Fingers with outlier. He's one of the only relievers in the game with a forkball. So he's more like a John Donaldson of the bullpen. He's all right. He's fine. I wouldn't say he's anything great. But you know, slower cutter works in theory. In practice, usually your opponent just earlies it out for a home run. So he's really throwing the four seam, the outlier four seam, and the forkball most of the time. Luke Weaver, another B tier guy, a guy I'd probably not be using at this point. Probably would be getting off of. Munoz, definition of just super readable. I think probably C tier. You can make an argument for B tier. I just think he's really readable. I think he's a guy where if you bring him in and his outlier isn't working, he's going to be straight trash. So I don't really like him. I would rather just do Ben Joyce. If I wanted like that double outlier look, I would just go Ben Joyce. I still don't think he's great, which is why he's in B tier, but Kopech, the better value dibble, and Loki, the better card. It's just the pars are going to be really big because he came out forever ago, but he still has like really high hits, so that kind of offsets it. Aroldis, bottom of A tier. I don't think he's strong by any means, and we've definitely gotten better Chapmans with like circle changes and stuff. I think he's just never really been that hard for me to hit personally, but he just gets results. I don't know what it is. You bring in Chapman, people have drool start coming out of their mouth, and they swing the moment the ball comes out of his hand. You can work the slider, you can work the splitter. Don't know what it is. People just lose their mind when Chapman comes in the game. Maury Hahn, top of A tier, maybe S tier. It's just, he's really weird because I think for 3/4 of people you bring him in against, he's going to be dominant and he's going to be disgusting and he throws like the best sinker in the game. And then sometimes you'll just bring him in and your opponent won't struggle at all against him. So he's a weird one, but I still think most of the time he's good. Billy Wagner, S tier. He's only pitched like 4 innings for me, but he's only given up 1 hit in those 4 innings. I don't know what it is about him. Giving him a sinker, put him over the top. I think he's really good. And then Felix Bautista, S tier. The definition of a guest pitch pitcher or a guest, I don't even know. If you're playing somebody that's really bad and can't hit outlier, he's just going to make them look foolish over and over again as long as they don't guess right. And if you're just on a higher difficulty on a really bad server, same thing. Like, I find good players usually hit Felix pretty decent, but this year, with just how the servers are, if you end up in the bad one, like, it's just a 1 in 3 chance that you guess the right pitch, and otherwise you're looking foolish. So I like him a lot, especially in this year's game environment. Ottavino, probably just B tier. I don't love him. I think I prefer him over Loaizaga, but he's like a righty Andrew Miller, where I've just never found him that hard to hit. So it wouldn't be one of my favorites at this point. Any more relievers that have snuck through the cracks? Doesn't look like it. All right, so we can start with our starters. CC, I'm going to give S tier. I don't think it's a strong S tier, but for the reason of, I think he is one of the few pitchers that I think will pitch good for you no matter what the difficulty is. I think he'll be all right on Legend. I think he'll be all right on Hall of Fame. And I think he throws hard enough with his 4-seam, even though he doesn't have outlier, to where he's serviceable on All-Star. So I think he is a pitcher that transcends difficulty. I think he can be in your 5 no matter where you're at. Clemens, another S tier inclusion. He started to show some age recently. It's kind of tough. Or at least for me it is. Like, sometimes you'll just lose the zone with him. You can't throw a strike. Your perfects just barely miss out of the zone. Your goods just miss it way out of the zone or right down the middle. So it's not a fun experience using Clemens, especially when you get Clemens mirror match and your opponent's just painting everything somehow, and then you can't throw a ball in the ocean. It's not a good feeling. He still can be good. The sinker's still pretty good. The splitter's still really good, and the 4-seam obviously. But his slider has started to show some age because most pitchers are just throwing bullet sliders at this point. Screwball. Don't know why I ended up like this, but we have all our S tier starters like right here. Screwball, big fan. I love the card. He's just going nowhere for me. I enjoy him. I think if you know how to do his pinpoint, he's perfectly fine, and I enjoy him. John, I think, is hanging on to S tier by a thread. I think he's still got the best stuff in the game. It's just a matter of his hits. Like, his hits are really bad. His control's pretty bad. So, like, pitches like the sinker tend to go wherever they want. But the problem is the hits, because then you start to give up more perfects with them. You start to throw like inside sliders and jam people, but their timing windows are so big that they just end up being like blue pits or lates up the middle, stuff like that. So he just gets hit a lot. But if you end up on a high difficulty or a bad server or something like that, and he's just impossible to time up, he still can be really good, especially because of the speed differential and the tunneling. Pearson, I would probably give A tier. I think he's still okay. Bullet slider, throws a hard four seam, has a good speed differential on the circle change. Downsides, pars are massive. It's literally half the zone some games. But I've had multiple games where like I don't struggle against any of his pitches except the slider. It's faster than it looks. And it's a really good tool for him. All right, who we got next? Troy Melton, Tigers guy. I'm gonna give him C tier, but I think on Legend this card could fry, because if you don't know his pitch mix, it's like four seam, I think sinker, cutter, splitter, and then a slider, I think. So that is the pitch tunneler's dream. The unfortunate part is the speed difference isn't that big. The cards like per nines aren't that crazy. So I think he's purely a Legend guy, and even then I don't know if he's gonna be necessarily great. Skeens, C tier. I absolutely hate every Skeens card. They all kind of also have like bugged outlier to where they don't throw as hard as they should because they throw so much off speed. We'll revisit that topic later, but I just have not found Skeens hard to hit at all. I think he just needs an overhaul to his entire pitch mix. Buchholz, I'll give it A. I don't love him. I didn't love the Jolt one at the start of the year. I don't find him to be that hard to hit. I think you have to be on Hall of Fame at the minimum, and you probably prefer to be on Legend for him. But he's all right. He's fine. Kershaw, kind of same story. You'd probably like to be on Legend. He's still capable of giving you all right games on Hall of Fame. He's okay. Strider, a card that's not so okay. Outlier four seam. So if you're playing somebody that can't hit outlier, he's great. But his other pitches are just pretty much junk, or you're just throwing the circle change up and shrinking PCI. But with his like default pitch mix, not gonna be that good on high difficulty either. Ubaldo, top of B tier, I'd say. If he had an outlier four seam, that'd probably be enough to give him A tier. But the outlier sinker is just not great, because then best case you're topping out like 99 on the sinker, which is gonna be the same as his four seam, which means the same swing will hit both pitches out. And then, you know, splitter's all right, but just not the craziest speed differentials either. Klubot, I think also B tier. This is a card where I feel like you have to be on Legend. He's just such a control freak. The slurve needs to be on higher difficulty where it's shrinking PCIs a little more, and it's just harder to square up. He's just the definition of like a Legend only guy. Maybe on Hall of Fame it'd be okay, but when I pitched his, he got a card earlier in the year. I forget what it was, but I pitched him on a Hall of Fame game. Did not go good in Weekend Classic, so I would steer clear if you're not on Legend, and really know what you're doing with him. Cy Young, C tier, kitchen sink pitcher, throws a little bit of everything, a lot of junk. Just not my preferred style of pitcher, but his control is kind of crazy, so I could see him being okay. Corbin Burns, A tier. This is like the epitome of a Corbin card. If you love tunneling, he has the outlier sinker, which is not the craziest tool in the world. Like, it's great to have righty-righty. Against lefties, switch hitters, just doesn't really do a whole lot. Maybe if you're throwing it outside, it'll shrink that window a little bit. But for the most part, it doesn't really matter. You're just pitch tunneling with Corbin. Same story. That's always been. Liam Doyle, B tier. He has kind of a bugged outlier similar to Skeens. I think his pitch mix in general is a little better. I think if you get some parallels on him, it can fix the outlier a little bit. So I'm going to leave him there. Crochet, A tier. Some people would have him S tier. I just don't see it. I think he's very reminiscent of like the Tops Now one that we had at the start of the year, where he's really good. He's just not great. In my opinion, he needs like outlier four seam, and they gave him outlier sinker, which I've already kind of made my thoughts on that. No. Pedro, B tier, good swing and miss guy. Honestly, yeah, I'll give him A. But a lot of people are gonna like have their jaws on the floor after that. It's just all-star Hall of Fame. It's really hard to strike people out. Outlier, 20 mile an hour speed differential. great strikeout guy. It's hard to strike people out in those difficulties, so I like him. You know, in the full context, he's probably more of like a B tier guy. But All-Star and Hall of Fame, I like him a good amount. D Train, straight to D. Not great. Not good at all. Freed. B tier. You know, if you told me he gave you a good outing, I wouldn't be overly surprised. I think he's all right. Just nothing spectacular. Hunter Brown, A tier. Kind of the same as Nate Pearson. Nate actually has outlier. Hunter Brown does not. He just throws hard. But Hunter Brown does throw one of the hardest sliders in the game. It's like 92, 93 every pitch, assuming you got some parallels on them. So that's an incredible tool to have for some lefties and every switch hitter. It's like every single switch hitter has a swing that's just not calibrated well for bullet sliders. So if you are leg kick dependent, Hunter Brown kind of eats those players alive with the bullet slider, which is why bullet sliders are so valuable. Rogers, C tier, maybe D tier. He's not good. He's like kind of reminiscent of like a Chris Bubich, where it's like a lefty with a janky release, throws the sweepers, you know, slurve, whatever. Just not great when you have a slider and a slurve, in my opinion, because there's just very minor differences. Usually the same swing hits both out. Tyler Brimner, I think, can be okay. I've seen nobody pitch him. Unlike Doyle, and I think Kyson's on here, I have seen nobody pitch this card. I just thought his pitch mix seemed all right. He doesn't have outlier or anything special. But I think his mix seems pretty decent, to where I wouldn't be shocked if he gave you decent outings. Tom Seaver, D tier. This is Bob Gibson, right? Hang with me. Except he's white, and he has no outlier. So the thing that makes Bob Gibson so good, he doesn't have, and he's just ridiculously overpriced. I think he's like $200K. I don't even know if you can get the card anymore, because he was a vintage BR award. Maybe like next multiplayer season, he'll be available in a rewind or something like that. But just not a whole lot of reasons to use Tom Seaver, unfortunately. Dustin May got asked if this card's outdated. The answer is yes, a little bit, but he's still pretty good. Like, outlier sinker goes crazy, has a cutter, unlike, you know, like Ualdo, no cutter. Kluber, no outlier sinker. So he's still good in his niche, but it just, the per nines are really dated at this point, and that was a card that struggled with control when he came out. I can only imagine now, since we're used to a little bit higher control pitchers. Kyson, fine. I think he might be another guy with like bugged outlier. Not the craziest pitch mix in the world. I've used him a little bit. He's nothing spectacular in my opinion. Roy Halladay, probably just D, I guess. Maybe C. I'll put him C, because like, if you want to be really annoying with this card, you could just tuck the cutter in a corner every single pitch on All-Star, and that would be mildly annoying to hit. But you know, he's more of a legend only guy, kind of like Kluber, except at least Kluber's got some other stuff to work with. Roy just throws a splitter that's too fast for its own good. And just, he's a pure legend guy. Always has been, probably always will be. Chase Burns. This card sucks. Realistically, he's probably not worse than Dontrelle Willis, so I can't put him F tier as much as I want to. He is the poster child for glitched outlier. He throws an outlier four seam that should be 102, 103 every pitch, and then he throws a ton of junk, like circle change, slider. I think he throws a slurve, the whole 9 yards, and it brings down his velo to where you're lucky if the four seam ever hits 99. I think I used him to get the PXP for Acuna. And I don't know if he threw a fastball over 98 miles an hour. Like, this card is just not good. The only redeeming factor he has isn't there. He's trash. So I think that kind of highlights an issue with outlier and the pitch mix they give some of these guys. Not great. Warren Spahn, kind of similar to like Cy Young, where kitchen sink pitcher, does have a screwball. So, you know, maybe you can work the screwball if you're on a high enough difficulty, kind of like Don Sutton or somebody like that. But in general, just not my type of pitcher. And in addition, he has a really long windup. So if you hate pitchers that have long windups, probably would not be using Warren Spahn too much. Glasnow, here we go. Here's an F tier card. Just because the card's a 99 does not mean they're good. He throws 4 pitches. I think in the past they have actually given him a sinker. I don't believe this one has it. He's like the definition of a Joe Random pitcher. Never good. Same for Giolito. Usually gets the worst Team Affinity card ever every single year. They give him a spotlight this time, so just not good. 4-pitch guy. Just again showing you that high overalls did not necessarily make a good pitcher. Randy, A tier. I think every time you pitch Randy, it's a coin flip. Similar to John, his hits are pretty dated at this point, so people just have fat timing windows when they're hitting against him. And you're going to play some players that just absolutely tank Randy just because they've seen him a lot. We had the Live Series Collection Award. He's been in the game for years now. Some people just light him up. They have kind of like Corbin Burns syndrome where they've just seen him a lot. They know what you want to throw with them. They know how to hit it. And then you got on the other side of that, people that still can't hit Randy. So every time they see him, they pretty much just quit after like one inning of being no hit. So he's a coin flip, but sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. Darvish, C, I guess. Another like pure legend guy. Probably has an F tier program. You can make an argument this isn't even the best Darvish because like the 92 or 93 like Cubs one, Loki has a better pitch mix than this one. He's all right, nothing special. Chris Sale, B tier, gimmick guy, just all about the janky arm action. I think every time I've seen him this year, I haven't really struggled even on like not great servers. Maybe there is something to that, like on a really bad server you might get a lot of rollovers on like the circle change or the slider or something like that just because of how delayed it'll be. But in general I don't think he's that good. Yeah, not a huge fan of him. Maddox, wherever Roy's at, he's going. Again, same thing, not a good player on lower difficulties, but if you want to be really annoying, you could probably just tuck the cutter in a corner every single time. And even if your opponent hits it perfect, it's probably going to be a line out or a single. So there's a very annoying way you can pitch with him. But I wouldn't say he's a good pitcher. Wheeler, B tier, all right, like fine. Not the crazy speed differentials. They did give him a splitter. He's all right. I think as a captain card, he's one of the better captain cards you can run because he is a pitcher, which means you're not necessarily inclined to use him that much. So I think Phillies theme team, great. Not over the hill to start Zach Wheeler 1 out every 5 games. Logan Webb, honestly, yeah, probably B tier. I think out of the control freaks like Maddox, Darvish, Halladay, I probably would prefer him. I think he transcends difficulty better than the other ones. I think he's going to throw harder than the other ones. I think maybe Roy can throw as hard as Logan Webb. But for me, I think I prefer him over the others. So I think he barely sneaks in the B tier. Castillo, here we go. We can revisit this now. Probably F tier, honestly. He's a guy that needs outlier sinker. Every time we've ever had a remotely relevant Castillo, it's because he has an outlier sinker. They didn't give him one, even though we are kind of getting close to the end game at this point. So he's just not super relevant, unfortunately. And then our final card, Outlier. So we can put him in S tier. And then if I'm going to organize this, that is 5, right? Yeah. So that would be my 5 probably preferred starters right now. I go back and forth. I will say like Screwball's a lock for me. Screwball's not coming out of the rotation anytime soon. Outlier's a lock. And then all of these other guys is pretty fluid with. Like Clemens goes through some bad throws sometimes. John, like I said, with the hits can be really annoying, but maybe on a bad server, he's still the best pitcher. And then CC, I think, is decent all the time, so I do enjoy him. And then you got other guys just kind of like knocking on the door, where if you prefer one of these guys, they probably make the jump up to S for you. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Yeah, like, subscribe, all that. Till next time. Peace.